Well, I mean, one thing, it's like some people can do this or that, or they're good at one thing and they're kind of good at another thing, this. But with you, what I noticed is that you were good at all of it. It wasn't like you had the connections to get the good planes.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you were actually an amazing photographer yourself, composition wise, and with what you wanted with the vision of keeping with the history. The girls you chose were very specific and like appropriate, and so that's something that totally I took notice of. Everyone was done head to toe as well as far as wardrobe and things. Nothing was like kind of half-assed or like kind of this or kind of whatever. It really was the full package of the models, the hair, the makeup. I'm very specific about that over the years. I do wardrobe styling now and all that, so I'm very much like, I notice everything, like head to toe.
And we got better
correct.
over the years, because the more I got passionate about it, the more I wanted it to be as authentic as possible. So over the years, you'll see that it's more authentic as we go, I think.
Yeah, and that's the same with me too. The more I started doing modeling and pinup modeling in specific genres and shooting with cars and planes and bikes and things that were certain eras, the more I actually really wanted to make sure that I was authentic to sticking with the time period of what I was shooting on, not just like a generic, wearing some polka dots or some leopard or whatever, like I wanted to make sure, like, what year is this plane? Okay, right. I'm gonna find an outfit that literally is from like a 5-year period of when this plane went out. It's the same with cars too. I've gotten very into it, and I think it really shows. And that's something I noticed in your work, that you were very particular about that as well. And I felt that would make us a good match.
I'm going to go ahead and bring up our first shot, which made the 2012 All Bombers calendar, which was our second edition. And we had some wardrobe provided. I believe it's what Katie did. I'm not 100% sure now.
It is what Katie did.
A while,
a number of times. So I was glad that you brought that along, because there's somebody I would have suggested myself.
Yeah, I mean, the color of it, and then the lighting, and it just was magic out there. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it up. So there you are.
Mm-hmm.
That was 2011 that we did that. Can you believe it?
Time flies. I don't even know.
That's unbelievable.
But that was great. I loved. So my favorite was how we had to shoot very fast, and I'm in this corset and these heels and these stockings, and you want to shoot a photo on the wing, and you're like, just climb. You just have to climb up the plane. So I literally had to climb from the bottom all the way through the seating area, out the top onto the wing. And I couldn't do it in heels, and I had those stockings on, and I'm trying to not slip off the edge of the plane, and I'm standing, you're like, can you get closer? And I'm looking at the plane with the line that says, do not stand past this point. And you're like, can you stand past that point? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and the wind's blowing, and I'm in like nylon standing on one foot, trying to.
It was definitely a sight to see.
Thing in a corset, and it looks amazing, but I swear the things that people don't realize you have to do.
Yeah. So, you've been inside a B-25, which is more than a lot of people can say.
Right?
There's roughly, I think, 25 to 30 probably operational right now in the world. So they are getting rare also. So I'm going to go into some production here. So that evening really was a nice night, actually. But I was just having so much fun with you, because I'm a leg guy and you're a poser. And when you had that silk kind of sash, I guess a nightgown or whatever that was, it just really worked well out there, didn't it?
Yeah, I'm a leg girl. I've been on the cover of Leg Show 3 times, so I've definitely worked leg and feet. I'm happy to work those angles for anybody, and so that's something I was familiar with. The wind blowing was definitely a thing, and then also, another thing that people don't realize is that you're shooting me while but you have the sun behind you, so it's
Right.
like every model has to look directly into the sunlight. So I've had to learn kind of how to, do the 1, 2, 3, where you have
Yep.
your eyes closed and you're like 1, 2, 3, and you open them because then your eyes like start watering.
That's right.
So it's you basically have to look into the sun, balance on one foot, be blind, and look pretty, and like the wind blowing, and all this. There's a lot going into it on the model's end.
Well, you know that, I mean, here's another one. So you know that, it's a outdoor situation. There's pedestrians and other people around, and so it's kind of, it's not an easy shoot. But how did you feel being around these big aircraft? Was that kind
They're
of
not, they're not necessarily private. There's a lot of people that want to look on, people with the planes, whatever. I'm comfortable around the big aircrafts. I know how to take up space because of how I my experience modeling and stuff. I know angles and things, and I can tell when you show me a picture, I like to be shown, hey, let me see what you're getting so that I can adjust myself in the frame to see what works best with that. So that wasn't, a problem at all. It's just still always the looking into the sun or the balancing on the 1 foot or the climbing in a corset or the this or the that. Those are all things. It's a lot going into it. So it's overwhelming for a lot of new models or people who don't have a lot of experience with that. You can't be shy. You just have to go. You have a limited amount of time. You got to get through the poses, do what you got to do, and like just bang it out, and trust that, working with you, I felt comfortable that you knew what you were doing on your end, so I didn't have to worry about that at all, which is a huge relief, to know that you're working with someone competent enough to be able to catch the composition and the shots that are going to be the most flattering and the best for the image.
Yeah, and when I got you out there, that I believe you went first. I'm pretty sure you did. And
maybe.
Yeah, I think you did. And because I only had 2 shoots, I had Amber DeVille there with you.
She's a friend of mine as well. I love her. Yes, very sweet.
So it was only a matter of minutes, though, that you were out on the set that I
think you shot Amber first, and I think we were running low on time because the sun was setting, and I think so that's why we didn't have as much time. We had to really bang it out for that last one.
Yeah, okay. But I felt the same way. I mean, your movements and your comfortability in the wardrobe and stuff, within minutes I knew I was just had got the right person for sure, and I was really excited. So thank you so much, because that
thank you too.
Turn out to be a really wonderful shot.
Yeah, and like I said, you said to climb the plane. I didn't hesitate. I was like, okay, like whatever. I'm taking off my shoes and my corset, my stock, and climbing out on the thing. Like, those are the shots. We got a good shot on the wing there. And on I think all of the airplanes, we did a wing shot that it was amazing. So, but those always make the best shots, but they're terrifying, but in a good way,
Well, I will say this, and I'm gonna be like knocking on some wood, crossing some fingers over here. But in 140 aircraft, I've had almost every one of them. I've had women in high heels on it. We've never had a scratch or an injury at all. So that's wonderful.
That's definitely good. I know I had to take my shoes off for the Yankee lady because I was just like, that one because the wind was just blowing.
We're gonna see that momentarily here. I wanted to just show you this last production shot from Vintage Fun. I just thought this was actually a really great shot for me.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of these behind the scenes, and they're really great too.
Isn't that beautiful?
They give you a lot
I just
of
think it's really sexy. Just, it's kind of, I know it's a production still, but for those.
It's interesting to see behind the scenes and the perspective of other people and things like that, really what goes on behind the scenes to get the shot.
Yeah. So I want people that are viewing right now to take notice of that C-47 in the backdrop there. That was actually the next aircraft that we used with Amber DeVille. Mm-hmm. And we were wrapping the shoot up. And I don't even know if I ever actually told you this story, Angela, or not. You may remember, I forget. But shortly afterwards, these guys showed up.
Yeah, there's always someone who comes in and they want to get a picture, and they're like, "Hey!" So.
Well, look at their faces. Anybody?
I know.
That is like.
How could I resist?
That's about as giddy as it gets. If you know
Yeah,
mechanics, that's about as.
I couldn't say no. I said, get on in here. Let's get you a shot.
So let me tell a brief story right there. These guys grabbed me right after I finished with Amber, and they asked me to come into the hangar
Uh-huh.
to look at something. So I said sure, and I come in, and there's another C-47 in there that's torn apart that they're restoring.
Mm-hmm.
So they said, you got to see this, you got to see this. So they took me in the rear door and they walked me up through the center of the aircraft to the jump door. So this would have been where the guys were jumping out of the airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, after the war, it had been sold into surplus and turned into a commercial airliner. So during the 50s, it had been flying people around. So they
Weird.
had an interior built into it, like a wood paneling surface that kind of made it look non-military and more commercial. So in the process of the restoration, they tore all that out. Well, they said you got to come up here and see this. They had torn the panels off around the jump door, and would you believe there were Vargas pinups pasted all around that door from World War II.
Oh, wow. They kept some of those of
Well,
the
they
original
pasted. It
there?
was the last thing they saw when they jumped into combat.
Nice.
Now, if that's not a reason to appreciate the women and the pinups and all that stuff,
Hey,
you need to understand what that meant to these guys. You know what I'm
people gotta
saying?
have a reason, you're fighting for something. So, hey, if a pinup girl's gotta be it, if I gotta be the reason, I'm happy to help.
Well, let me ask: did you know much about the what we call nose art? Did you know much
Yeah, I
about that
did.
before you knew me?
Yeah, I did because I've studied and done a lot of pinup stuff
Hmm.
over the years. So I mean, there's Vargas, Petty, all those. I have books and books. I have a library upstairs of art and learning poses and things myself too.
Great
Um,
books, yeah.
yeah, for reference, they're amazing. So yeah, definitely, I'm very familiar with all of those. But also another thing too is that they would take photos of those things and then they would paint them a certain way. I mean, some of these poses were literally physically impossible
Yeah,
for a woman to get. They would take a photo and combine
yeah.
the head, the body, and the feet of three different things, where it was literally no woman could be in that actual pose
Right.
that they took out in the picture. And you get photographers like, well, can't you just this and this? I'm like, no, I can't. No one can. Physically, no one can.
It's
It's
maybe some of those
impossible.
little Chinese contortionists could
I
actually
mean,
do it. Yeah.
yeah, it's like turn your head all the way around this way and have your feet this way and bend your arch in this way and balance on one toe this way. And you're like, this just isn't going to happen. So that was another lesson to learn too. You're like, oh, I could totally do that. And you get out there and you're like, no, no, no. No, I can't do that. No one
I'm
can do
thinking, I'm just going over it in my head all the years and everything, and I think I actually probably did enjoy working at the moment with you probably more than almost any of them because
that.
I just knew we were going to get it.
I tried to
Yeah.
bend myself in those positions.
Well, let's take a look at the next one here, which was a few years later. I called you back in and
Hmm.
said, let's bring Angela back home and make her the true Americana.
Yes, that
And
one I think was near Detroit in Michigan somewhere, correct?
yeah, that's Ypsilanti, which is
Yeah.
where the Yankee Air Museum lives, and we're very close associates with all those guys. I've been on that B-17 about 3 times on my own. They put me in the air, and they put the girls in the air. They've been very good to us over the years. We go to the air show out there, but we definitely wanted to do it right when we shot that aircraft because it was again just great associates. We wanted that to be highlighted.
Yeah. Well, I
Um,
was excited that you asked me back, and that pose there, I have coined. It's my famous flamingo.
I love it.
So it's the balancing on one toe. You see, I'm on the tiptoe,
You are.
and you got the one leg up with the back arm and the front arm. So it's my that's my flamingo that has been very popular over the years.
Yeah, and I think was it you that found the corset?
No, I think you found that one, but I had one. Had I known you were gonna that you wanted that, I found the other one, the British flag one, the Union Jack, because what Katie did made an American flag, and what Katie did made the Union Jack. So I got the outfit, and I had the skirt made for the Union Jack as well. You guys provided that outfit, but I was like, oh, how'd you know? Had I known, I could have gotten the whole thing too, because I think the corset was a little short in the top.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
right, right.
I had to keep shoving myself back in
Well,
because
we've
I
had
kept
to
popping out the
Photoshop
top.
just a little bit.
Just a smidge popping out the top. I mean, no
Yeah.
one on set seemed to mind.
Yeah, that's right.
all,
No one minded
all
at
the
all.
guys on set, there was some of the crew was totally fine with me popping out.
That's true. They
I think
always,
I gathered quite a crowd.
I get the red carpet, but it's not because of me, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. Once one person heard I was popping out, I think more people they gathered some friends, and there was a little bit of an audience
So yeah,
waiting for
that
that
was a nice
moment.
afternoon. And once we had a little bit of a hair debacle in the very
No,
beginning,
that's
but
on there. And I had to take the shoes off. I was like, no, you've got to take these shoes off. I was like, I cannot, I got to balance. And this is the one where I was having a hard time because it was so windy
yeah,
that I was scared to balance in the shoes on the wing on that one.
I'm not gonna lie. I have a thing about having a little Cinderella picture with a lot of the girls.
Oh,
So that's my
yes, there you
Cinderella picture
go.
with you.
If the shoe fits.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So moving on
Yes.
again, I wanted to show people that you had been in the middle of this big shoot, and when we wrapped, we actually had a couple of fans that had pre-requested that I bring the prints over to you, and you were nice enough to sign those. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that fan has had a lot of stuff. He's contacted me, is always complimenting and commenting on pictures and liking things. So it's nice to see that, you know, people see you on there, and then you know who they are, and you're like, oh hey, thanks for liking my stuff, and they found me through you. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So there's the guys, and of
Oh, the
course
guys that got the free show,
they
yes.
enjoyed it like you wouldn't
They
believe.
enjoyed they
Yeah.
enjoyed the popping out the top there. They were the ones that
Yeah,
made
you
sure to
never have
stick around.
trouble getting a guy to help you or help you up and
Yeah,
down. Yeah, it's
no, they were very, very nice and offered anything they could to be able to stick around and help.
they're good guys. Let me tell you another brief story, quick. The Yankee lady was at an air show at Teterboro. You know where Teterboro is, right?
I don't
Teterboro,
know.
New Jersey's
Okay, New
right
Jersey.
across from New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, I was there on 9/11,
Mm.
9/11/11. So
Ooh.
it was the 10-year anniversary of
Yeah.
the Twin Towers, and President Obama at the time was down at Ground Zero, and they had a ceremony. Well, would you believe we took off in that, went straight and did a loop around the
Wow.
Statue of Liberty, and then we flew right over Ground Zero.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was able to look out of the bomb bays looking down on the ceremony. And I thought to myself, I'm a part of history right now because
Yeah.
them
That's
seeing that
special.
B-17 meant a lot, I think.
So that's the one thing that I will say is that I've posed with a lot of these airplanes, but I have still yet to fly in any of them because we're always doing the shoot and this
Yeah.
and that and whatever. So I haven't flown in any of them yet. People ask, "Oh, did you get to ride in it?" And I'm like, "Not yet," but
The only reason that hasn't happened has been just because of our distance and timing. Otherwise,
well, I get that.
I have
I
seriously
understand.
been wanting you so many times to come to Oshkosh and other areas, but it just didn't work out, and I'm so sorry for that. But there may be
It happens,
opportunities,
but hopefully one day I'll get to fly in something.
Well, maybe after this interview, you'll get an invite.
Maybe, please. I'd love to. If someone
Yeah,
wants to sponsor me to come out.
yeah, that sounds good. Maybe we'll do a shoot. Maybe I'll come down to Texas. We'll see
Oh, of
what we
course we'll
can.
shoot. Of course.
By the way, I don't know whether you know this about me, but I grew up in Texas.
Ah, what
Yeah,
city?
I grew up in Spring, which is just outside Houston.
Yeah, okay. Nice.
Little town there. They have a burger shop there that's over 100 years old, and everybody comes down to get that burger because it's like the best thing. But yeah, I remember it as a kid talking to these old guys that were there, and they remembered when it was just grazing land with cattle,
Yeah.
and how much that's grown in 100 years. And I know men that are 100 years old right now, so things are moving awfully quickly.
Oh God, yeah, everything changes so quick.
Yeah. But
So
so I know Texas culture quite well, and I was spent some of my formative years down there, so I'm a Texan, I guess you could say. But
you are
apparently
officially.
I wasn't big enough for Texas because everything's big in Texas, so they made me leave because I'm 5'6".
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely got the big personality, big hair, big other things, So I'm pretty Texan.
You fit
I'm
in,
okay with
yeah.
that.
I'm going to move on here quickly
Uh-huh.
to so in 2015, I had been gathering such a great audience overseas in Europe that we finally felt we had done enough American hardware that we would
Mhm.
honor those guys as well. And so we did Yanks and Allies 2015. So I wanted something really banging special for that, which was the Mosquito had just come in from New Zealand. So it was, I mean, the paint was just like still wet
Yeah.
practically when you got there. And we chose you for the cover, obviously. So this turned out to be a really wonderful cover. I call it the Cobra pose, but the wind was so nice.
That's a burlesque. That's a standard burlesque, like the finale of your number, like the ta-da, like,
Yep.
But that was a very special shoot. I was super honored to be asked to shoot on such a, impressive and unique and one of a kind airplane.
Absolutely.
Like that meant a lot to me.
So here is the final calendar shot in addition to the cover there. So yeah, that really was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I was really jazzed at the time because I knew I had gotten a hold of this airplane that nobody else could, and I had.
And they were so protective of it. They were literally like, okay, you have to stay this far away. You can't go near. I mean, they were really, because as they should be. But then finally, I don't know what happened. Somehow, I don't know if it was your idea, my idea, or if they suggested it. We ended up getting a shot of me. Like they let me sit on the wing, but I had to do it very carefully, and I could only sit on this one spot on a towel, and I had to have a ladder and this and that. But that was like the mind-blowing part to me. I was like, oh my God, like no one's touched this plane and they're letting me sit on it. And it was just like, I could tell that they felt so comfortable with you and I, and felt that, we were the right people and that we would take care of it, and we understood the historic significance of that they let us do that. And I thought that was really special.
Yeah, in fact, just a historical note, by the way, the Germans at the time had been working on the nuclear weapon, and they were in line to get there probably about the same time we would have. So who knows what would have happened. And there's a good movie that was made, I think it's called 339 Squadron or something like that. But anyway, they took a series of these Mosquitoes up into the fjords in Norway where the Germans had a heavy water plant built, which was going to start producing the fissile materials for an actual bomb. And these planes went in and destroyed that. So we owe a great deal of gratitude to those guys, because if the Germans had gotten the bomb first, I think we know what would have happened. So
Yeah, definitely.
so here you are.
Because the wind too, we had to make sure we were flinging the skirt with the wind and this and that. There's a lot of things that go into it. Posing wise, you have to do it a number of times.
I love watching. I just love
you.
watching you work. It's so fun. And you're very, the more prop you give Angela, the more she kind of works it. It's just this, I don't know what you call those, like a sash or something.
Well, my friend Vivian Vermouth, she's a burlesque performer. I had her custom make that skirt for me in the colors of the flag, so that it's a panel skirt that they wear in burlesque, and usually in burlesque you can pick off each color panel, but I had her just make it all one because I didn't need it for show. So it made it where it was very flowy, very drapey, but it's a traditional burlesque style skirt.
Okay.
And I had another performer make that for me for the shoot. And then the shoes are from Betty Page line of shoes by Ellie. And I worked for them. I modeled their first catalog. And so I said, hey, I need some shoes for this. And they had no problem sending me some some shoes
you want the gloves, give me
to
a
shoot
shout.
in for it as well. So
That's awesome.
definitely, and then what Katie did sponsor the corset, the Union Jack. So
Right.
we've got a lot of good sponsors and
Yeah.
wardrobe for this.
Yeah, it really turned out great. And
Yes.
what some people will probably, we have the nitpickers, of course.
Oh, of course.
So the yellow circle that surrounds the little circle on the airplane, that points out that it was actually a Canadian. Canadians were part of the Commonwealth at that time, which they still are. So they would have gotten the same types of weapons from Great Britain. So this is actually a Canadian Air Force airplane technically, but because it's the Commonwealth, I thought I could speak out to everybody in Europe and just kind of give a shout out, let them know that we appreciate them over here too.
Yeah.
And so,
I like the fact that
but it's fun to watch you work there.
Yep, work with that wind.
Yeah. But that was good that we had it because it gave it a lot of texture.
Yeah, it gave it a life. It gave it
It
movement
did.
for sure. Yeah, so that's fun. There's me sitting on the plane. They had me sit on a towel, and I had to climb a ladder, and I could only sit on this one piece of wood
That's
that was
right.
in the plane, and they were very like, "Don't scratch it." Like, oh, I was so paranoid.
Well, let me tell you
But
something.
I was so honored too.
Something funny about that. Let me get back in here. Hang on. One of the things that I think has really been an interesting experience for me personally, because the average cost of these airplanes is roughly $2 million to $10 million in that kind of zone. And I've worked with car guys before, and I know you have. And
Oh yeah.
these guys have a 30, 40, 50, maybe $100,000 car, and they're just like, don't touch it, don't touch it, don't move it, don't move it. These guys that have Mustangs, they'll drag it out of the hangar for me and go to lunch and tell me to have a good time. And
I know, it's crazy.
They don't, and the people say, oh, why are you putting the high heels on there and all that? I get this a lot, and I'm like, do you realize that these aircraft were meant to receive 50 caliber bullets?
They were meant to go into battle and like take hits with bullets and bombs and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And
So,
most of the
I get it.
fighters, most of them were metal construction. Some had
but-
fabric constructions too, but I know all about it. So
but the Mosquito was wood, so I understand that is a whole other thing, and there's only 2 in the world, so
right.
preservation is definitely key on that, so I didn't want to be the one to screw any of that up either.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you didn't too, though. But I was
too.
insured for $1 million every time I went out. No question
Right.
about that. I never had a problem there. But there are 2. Let me think about this one. Wait a minute. I'm thinking of a different aircraft right now. I'm trying to think if they have. There are a few static display Mosquitoes in the world, but they're not operational. They will not start up and fly. So that was the only one. Now there is one. I believe it's in Minnesota that came out just recently. So there are 2 that I know of. I think Ericsson out west might have one. So, but in that period of time, two more came out of restoration.
So, well, we're lucky that there's a couple more now, but I mean,
yeah,
2 at the time was pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah,
That's all that's left.
I did want to get your impression of what you thought of Military Aviation Museum, because that was kind of a little wonderland, wasn't it? It's
Yeah. I mean, they've got a really great collection, so much history. The fact that they, are able to have airplanes like that too, that are like there's only 1 or 2 in the world, and things like that. It's just to be a part of that, and even just be in the same room, be with people who flew those things, or any of that, have any kind of personal history to that as well. It's just amazing to hear that.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but that's owned by a single gentleman. He's a billionaire.
Yeah, well, usually they are.
But he's a very, very nice man, and
he sounds like it.
His collection, probably, he has boxed up airplanes overseas. He hasn't even flown into the country yet. He has probably $400 million in assets there. That's pretty awesome.
So we still have some more planes we can shoot in the future.
We may just do that, yeah.